Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. I have a beautiful guest. I've known this woman, for 3-4 years. I'm not good at timelines, but known her for a while now, and I've always been inspired by the work that she does, the consistency, and just the woman she shows up as. Sullivan. I just said it before. I probably just fucked it up. Health, fitness, mindset mentor, helped thousands of people, women lose weight, build muscle, gain energy, reprogram food beliefs. I look forward to diving into that and create a perfect balance for their food, their training, and life. Sim, thank you for jumping on the podcast, and thank you for having a conversation with me today.
Thank you, Louis. Thanks so much for having me. We got there eventually.
Transparently, guys, I did get my calendar wrong, so I had my calendar scheduled a couple of hours later, but I raced around, I made it happen, and we are here today. But it's not about me today. It's about Simone. And Sim, I would love to know your story. I actually don't know yours. I'm obviously quite close with your partner, Dion, and I've had him on the podcast before. So I don't know your story. So I'd love to know a little bit more about yourself and I guess the things that have shaped you into the woman that you are today, given you the gifts that you've got today. So who is Sim? Who is Sim?
Who is Sim? Okay, so probably going to take us back to where I was born and grew up, which was actually in South Australia in a little town called Mount Gambier. Not many people know it. Not sure if you know it, but it's quite a small town. Lived there until I was, oh gosh, I think 20 was when I decided to make the move. And being a small town, it's really easy to get caught up with the wrong people. And I actually reflected on this really recently of, where I'm at today and where I could potentially be if I didn't make that move to move to Queensland. So grew up in that small town. My mum and I decided to make the decision to move up to Queensland and haven't looked back. Definitely got caught up in sort of the wrong crowds, wrong environments, wrong people. And so I guess did you want me to touch on like getting into the health and fitness space now and my story around diving into that?
You answer whatever you want to answer. I'm just going to enjoy listening. So you take it
Okay.
wherever you want to take it.
All right, amazing. Since moving up to Queensland, which would have been what I think it was about 16 or so years ago. I'm not good with timelines either, so we'll just roll with 16 years ago.
Beautiful.
I had a lot of gut issues. I had a lot of issues around like bloating and just all sorts of things going on with nutrition, digestion, all of the things. And when I moved up here as well, I started sort of really getting into following certain people on social media and following and doing exactly what they were doing to look a certain way. And I guess that's where all of my issues, so to speak, started with disordered eating and just some absolutely crazy things that I have done in the past, which would have been probably a good 10 years ago now, which is why I started researching myself and started to dive into why I was experiencing these issues, why the doctors were telling me it was just irritable bowel syndrome, going through the disordered eating of, cutting out carbs, cutting out sugar, to a point where I actually got really sick one time because my immune system was just absolutely shot. And I was under eating, I was overtraining, my body was just so stressed, cortisol through the roof. And I just knew that something needed to change. So a lot of that stemmed through social media and just really, trying to look a certain way and follow all these girls that had, bod goals or whatever you want to call it. And that's where my passion and my interest really started to unravel to heal my own, like I said, issues, so to speak, with the disordered eating and how I was feeling, but also to then pass that on to other women, especially, which is why I do specialize in women. So that's sort of, in a nutshell.
That's beautiful. There's a couple of ways I want to take this because this is a belief I have, and I'm not sure if you subscribe to it as well, but we go through things or we help people with the things that we've been through ourselves. So if like you've been through, from what I've heard, and I like it for the people that aren't watching the video, when Sim's saying issues, she's using quotation marks, which I'd have an idea of why you do that. And that's then allowed you or forced you to then go do the research. And it's probably inspires you a lot to then help people go through the same challenges without subscribing to the myths and bullshit out there that there is in the fitness industry. I've come from the fitness industry, so I know the amount of bullshit, just stats and diets and rubbish out there that's just not healthy for people. So I guess I'd like to start big picture. How do you help people? And it mainly women, from what you've said. Do you help men at all? Is it just, are we just speaking women today?
Yeah, I do help men if it's more in a one-on-one sort of scenario, but all of my group containers and programs, they are purely women, just so that it's that sort of safer space for women. And
Love it.
I do really, I guess, yeah, with my own things, definitely women. But yeah, so so how do I help them? Was that the question?
Yeah, for sure. So
Amazing.
say someone comes to you, why are they generally coming to you? And then what's kind of your process of going through? What's your secret sauce? How do you take someone who's, I'm assuming, obviously some form of physical transformation. There's probably some mental transformation that goes in there as well. There's probably a lot of lack of knowledge or the wrong knowledge inside of them around food, around eating, around dieting, around whatever it may be. Yeah, I'd like to just hear your process of how you help people, and I guess what are sort of the main sort of hurdles that you help them overcome.
Yeah, perfect. So basically, a lot of women that come to me, majority of them, to be honest, they are looking at weight loss, fat loss,
Yeah.
but not always, but that is majority of women. And I think the biggest thing is the misinformation, like you were talking about, the absolute bullshit out there, which is why I went through what I did. And it's definitely getting better, but in saying that, also not really, especially like particular, like I don't go on TikTok that much, but there is TikTok in particular, there's just still so much out there, and it is really sad. So it's so overwhelming, even for someone that does have that knowledge and education like myself. It's so overwhelming, and trying to pick to pieces all the actual studies that are legitimate to find out what's right and what's wrong. And it's just really confusing. There's all these different diets, there's always all these different ways that you should be training, and unfortunately there's a lot of crappy coaches out there that are literally just in it for the money, and that's why they'll advertise this fasting and these fad diets and all of the fancy things. So I think the biggest thing with me is definitely the education, but it's like they say, it's not necessarily knowledge is power, it's applied knowledge is power. And the thing that I have noticed in the last couple of years is you can give someone all of the information and the education, but if they don't have that mindset, but it goes deeper than mindset, if they don't have the right programming, if they have these traumas or beliefs or really embedded programming that is going to cause them to either self-sabotage or continue on with their habits and that sort of thing, they're not even going to be able to apply that knowledge. And a lot of women that come to me, especially working one-on-one, which is probably my favorite way to work with someone, because it gives us that opportunity to dive deep. And a lot of the times it could go back to childhood. It could go back to beliefs and programming from childhood. It could come back to a trauma. It could be something that's showing up in a different area of their life where maybe there's lack and scarcity that's then showing up in the way that they are actually eating or not eating food and that sort of thing. So I think with me, like I talk about food a lot more than training. And I think it's because nutrition and food is the biggest part of your results or your non-results, I suppose. And then there's the training side of it is a whole different aspect. But a lot of the times people are struggling with the nutrition, and that's the biggest part that's going to actually help them not only lose weight, if that's one of their biggest goals, but also to feel good, to have energy, to not feel bloated. Our gut's like our second brain, so it really does matter what we're putting into our body. But at the same time, I really like to help people figure out balance that works for them, because the other side of it is, yes, it's really important what we put in our body and how that makes us feel. And but it's also important about how we think about food, because health isn't just about the food we eat. It's also so much about our mindset. So it's really about creating that balance, about prioritizing nutrients, but also being able to eat food without the fear, without the guilt. So yeah, it all goes hand in hand.
So many nuggets just there, so many rabbit holes, and which one do we go down? I would like to know probably misinformation, because we've come from the fitness space and we had a bit of a connection through there as well. And we were on the shake diets, and that's another chapter for another day. But
Yeah.
I guess misinformation, what's the most common ones? What's the ones that like I know what you're talking about. Like I'll jump on TikTok and I'll see like these fucking bullshit ads. It's like drink a cup of lemon juice and you've just lost all this weight or something like that.
Yeah.
So what are the most common ones that you see? And for anyone that's listening or watching this and they're like, shit, that's me right now, what would you do? So maybe top three, and then
Mhm.
what would you say to those three individuals or pieces of information?
Mm. Probably the most common ones would be, oh gosh, there's so many. I guess like sugar and carbs has been a massive one.
Yeah.
And I say sugar and carbs because they do go hand in hand because, sugar is carbs. So there's been a lot of, drumming into our brains that carbs make you fat, carbs are bad, sugar's bad. And everything comes with context. So yes, too much of something can potentially be, and I don't love to always say good and bad. I don't like to label things as good and bad, but without that balance there, then yes, it could potentially not be the best thing for you if you're not prioritizing nutrients. So I think that would be one of them. I think around like the training side of things as well is that, you need to be doing all this ridiculous amount of exercise and or cardio. That obviously slips away from the actual food side of things, but I feel like that's a massive one that's actually come up lately with a few new clients. That you don't have to actually train 5, 6, 7 days a week, and it doesn't have to be cardio. You can get so much out of a proper program with just 3 days a week. But again, that's a whole nother topic. The other one, probably any of these just quick fix diets, whether it's like, don't get me wrong, sometimes fasting does have a place in terms of health, but in terms of trying to tell people that they have to fast just to achieve fat loss, or if they have to do a particular diet, whether it's, I don't know, I can't even think of the diets. I know there's like this 500 something or other, and it's where females are literally eating like 500 calories on some days of the week. It's just so much restriction, and it's just so bad and damaging to our bodies. So they're sort of the first ones that come to mind. And then how to help them through that. I mean, it can take time, and this is why I do have different programs and different coaching options, because it's not something that you can just jump into, your generic 6-week challenge, sign up to a challenge app and work through, because it takes time. And like I was saying before, like, knowledge and the education is definitely one of the biggest things. It's helping someone unlearn and reprogram everything that they've believed. Because if you tell someone something for long enough, or if they've heard the same thing for long enough, it can take a while to then reprogram. And again, perfect example of a few current clients or new clients that have come in. I'm slowly drip feeding them this information, and I'm working through a lot of mindset stuff to support that and to really help them change the way that they're thinking. But it's not something that you just tell someone something once and then they instantly believe it, because it has been drummed into your head that carbs are bad and you should fear carbs, or so yeah, it definitely comes back to the education, but also I think like them coming through my coaching, my programs, that sort of thing. It's something that they're going to see for themselves, because they start feeling amazing because they're eating carbs, and carbs are energy. They start feeling better because their digestion is better. They're not bloated, they're not uncomfortable. They, bit of TMI here, but they're going regularly to the bathroom. Like, there's all these things, and then really supporting their metabolism. So there's so much that goes into it, which is, the most important part, I think, of having an actual human coach be able to coach you through this, because everyone is so different with their beliefs and with what they've tried or not tried in the past, and everyone is so different with what they currently believe, or the stories that they've been told or tell themselves, and that programming through whether it's food or whatever it is that they have playing out.
What would be if you wrote a book, which maybe you will, maybe you won't, and you could only give 5 pieces of advice? It could be mindset, could be nutrition, could be training, but only 5 pieces of practical advice to move the needle the most. What would those 5 pieces of advice be?
The first one would definitely be around the mindset component and really being able to dive deep into, say, for example, if it's someone that's struggling with emotional eating or it's someone that's struggling with self-sabotage, I would really get them to dive deep into, distant memories, and this stuff again can take time, but really trying to trigger point where this all stemmed from, or the first occurrence when this first episode of emotional eating or self-sabotage came from, and really start to get them to be more aware and more conscious of those things that could have triggered whatever's playing out in their life.
Before you move on, can you dive into that a little bit deeper? So say I come to you and I binge eat or something like that, or I've got bad beliefs or things around food that's causing me to do things that are not optimal for my health. What would you actually get me to do? I like to say, like, I like to go super practical. So if I had pen and paper right now, what would you get me to do?
First of all, I'd probably get you to, maybe not in this order, but I'd get you to write down the things that play out in your mind throughout the day if you do go for that binge episode. So, if something triggers you and it's like a stress response, or if it, whatever it is, what were the actual thoughts that were playing out in your head before you actually did that? A lot of journalists play with this, because obviously it's one thing to think about it, but to actually write it down as well, so you can really reflect on it. And I find that even if the things don't come to you straight away, in terms of, the second thing would be thinking back to that very first time. And sometimes it might not just be one first, like one time. It could be multiple times. It could be an ongoing thing that happened in your childhood where, maybe there was a lack of food growing up in your childhood. So now you binge eat because when you do have food in front of you, this lack and scarcity mindset comes in from childhood, and you just want to eat all of the food. So definitely, writing down your thoughts on a daily basis so that we can really start to unpack it, and
awesome.
trying to figure out or pinpoint where it all started from. That was 2 things. Do you want some more?
Oh, keep going. Yeah, I love it. I'm very mindset orientated, and I don't want to indulge too much on mindset because I know you've got more value outside of that. But yeah, if you got some more, keep going.
Yeah, cool. I guess if we steer away from mindset slightly, I'd probably really go into certain beliefs around food. So mindset, I guess, but in particular around food, and really start to unpack, okay, so what is your belief around carbs, or what is your belief around why you binge eat, and just really start to go, okay, where did this belief come from, and is it actually true? And start to really, again, it always comes back to mindset, but in particular, we would start with the food questions or the training questions. So it's like, okay, cool, you just can't bring yourself to eat carbs because you're just so scared of everything that's been drummed into your head. Okay, where did that belief first come from? Do you believe it to be true? And really just start to ask the questions. And it's very sort of, it can be so like personalized to each individual depending on the questions that I would ask. But again, it always comes back to mindset.
Beautiful.
Or the programming. Yeah.
What would be second point? So first point, really dive into mindset, really work on yourself, do the inner work around your food, around your beliefs around it. What would be your second point?
Second one would be the education around food. So just really just, myth busting all of those myths that you have ever been told, so that you can start to go, okay, I know that not to be true now. And start to give you all of the information that is true. Then creating balance for you in your life, because balance for everyone looks different. And I don't believe that we ever have the perfect balance, but I feel like we can continuously audit our days and our weeks to find that balance. So, I would say to someone, like, write down what your day looks like, and let's see where we can, move things or change things, or what's actually important to you. What are your values? What can we prioritize, so that what you're doing throughout your day is actually aligning with your goals. And again, it comes back to myth busting all of these beliefs of like what you should eat, or how much cardio you should do, or how many times you need to train, because maybe you only think that you don't have time, or you think that it's not achievable because you have a belief that you have to train 5 days a week and get 10,000 steps steps in, but that's not the case. So again, it comes down to each individual, what their day looks like, what their lifestyle is like. Some people do have more privileges over others with, fresh fruit or a gym down the road and the convenience and that sort of thing. So yeah, finding out what their day looks like and how you can really start to create that balance and fit health, fitness, and mindset into your life just by tweaking a few things, so it doesn't have to disrupt your whole world. Yeah, would probably be the next one.
Beautiful. So just summarize. So we've got mindset, education, structure. So structure it in, make sure you're, and this is a belief I've picked up from the industry, is like, because some people say, what's the best style of training? Well, for me, it's like the one that you're going to do consistently and the one that you enjoy the most. Because there are people that are fit as hell who swim. There are people that are fit as hell who ride bikes, who power lift. Who, I know you're a CrossFitter yourself. So it's like, there's no what's better. It's like, I think I heard this off a different podcast. Like, there's no ultimate martial art. Which one is? There's only the master martial artist, which is competent across all the arts. So there's not like one is better than the other. So finding, I guess, ways to implement things that align with your schedule, because you might be a mum. I know you're a mum yourself. You might be a business owner. You might be a nighttime worker, a shift worker. So I guess tweaking it into your schedule would be number 3. What would be number 4?
Can you just go back to the question again so I can really think about this one?
So top 5 things that you would say if you were to write a book or just pass on this this knowledge once to the next generation, to clients, to the world, the top 5 things that really move the needle the most. So you said mindset, you said educating yourself, which I totally agree with both of those. Make sure it's, I guess, practical or implementable based on your schedule, based on what you enjoy. What would be the next 2?
Yeah, I think that would sort of, intertwine with what you were saying around movement, because this is a massive one. And I've always said for a really long time is move your body in any way, shape, or form, as long as it feels good to you. And of course, sometimes for someone that hasn't exercised in a long time, any sort of movement that's a little bit, strenuous or something they're not used to, it might not feel amazing at the time. It might hurt, it might be uncomfortable, but I feel like, everyone is so different. Some people love yoga, some people love Pilates, there's the CrossFitters, there's so many different things. And, for me personally, and this might help other people, like, I personally, where I am in my life, I don't enjoy going to a normal gym and just doing reps and sets. I've done that. I've been there. I'm over it. I want to get amongst the environment. I want to be, so it's going back to the question. It's just finding a way of movement that you love. That could be an ocean swim. Unless you have a really specific aesthetics goal, which again, with aesthetic goals, again, I've been there, I've been judged for how I look on stage and that sort of thing. And personally, not my vibe anymore, not something that I want to do. So I really encourage my clients to steer away from looking a certain way, because who sets the standard of how you need to look? So I guess that would then come into my 5th one of just really, and again, these probably aren't in a great order or a particular order, but coming back to, which still intertwines in the mindset stuff, but more coming from a place of self-love, self-acceptance. And, because there's been a time where, I did do a bodybuilding comp, I did too. And did that come from a place of insecurity and wanting to look a certain way to be accepted or to be, to have attention or whatever it is at that time in my life? And now I realize, for all of these years, all I wanted was a 6-pack. Like, I just wanted shredded abs. And for what? I got the abs, I got on stage, I felt like shit because I wasn't eating much. I was such a low percentage of body fat. I wasn't enjoying my lifestyle because, I'd have to really think about what I was preparing and taking meals and taking an esky and going to the gym and doing all my reps and sets. And now I couldn't give a shit about abs. Like, it's so more important to me because, like, I thought I would be happier if I looked a certain way. I thought I would be, more accepted if I looked a certain way. But no, it has to start from you accepting and loving you. And it all comes from inside. Like, you could look any way. And obviously, I still think that prioritizing your health is a massive part of, what you should be doing. And that looks different for everyone. Like, healthy looks different for everyone. It's not a particular shape or size, but it's so true that you're not going to instantly be happier or love yourself more just through the way that you look. It's so much more than that. So yeah, the self-love piece for sure.
How does one increase self-love? Because, and before you answer that, I'd like to touch a little bit on it. I've had a lot of either current or ex bodybuilders on the show, and they all do say similar things. Like a lot of it, I also look, so like what you just mentioned, what's the fuel behind it? Like what's the reason you're training? Because it's like I've heard that quote before. It's like instead of training to punish your body, train because you love your body, or something along the lines of that. So I guess I'm curious, how do you help clients do it for the right reasons, whether it's self-love, which I just mentioned? How do you help
Mm.
women and clients with self-love and make sure they are training for those healthy, empowering reasons rather than I'm insecure, so abs are going to make me feel better, which it doesn't, like you've mentioned.
Mm.
I've worked with many clients in this area as well. So how do you, yeah, how do you increase self-love with clients, and how do you help them, I guess, have motivation? If we want, I actually wrote that word down. So whether it's motivation to use the right fuel for their training, their goals, or whatever it may be.
Okay, so again, the self-love one is a journey. But I think one of the biggest things that stands out for me that I know has helped myself and so many clients is I feel like as soon as you remove yourself from, and it might not be possible in every scenario, but I know for me, the reason that I wanted abs, the reason that I wanted to look a certain way and I wasn't truly happy and loving myself right now is because I was following certain people on Instagram. I was getting myself around these people that had this either not necessarily an unrealistic body, but maybe for, an unrealistic body for a sustainable time. So I'm comparing myself to, these girls jumping on stage, for example. And as soon as I removed myself away from that and maybe unfollowed a few people and started to really go, okay, cool, what is it that I actually like? What do I do that actually makes me feel good rather than what makes me just look good? And as soon as I stopped training for the aesthetics, and this is what I would say to clients or anyone out there, is just try to really start to shift that focus away from I'm training because I want to lose fat, I'm training because I want to build a booty, and just go and train because you enjoy how it makes you feel, makes you feel strong, which is empowering. The endorphins, and then there's the food side of it. It's like eating because it gives you energy, it gives you the nutrients that you need, it balances your hormones, supports your metabolisms, your metabolism, all of the things, but also having that part of you go and enjoy cake because that's you celebrating your friend's birthday. So I think
Fuck yeah.
really questioning the why behind everything you do is so important. Yeah, like you were saying before, yeah, like why am I training like this? Like for me, I was training in the gym, like I said, and I didn't necessarily enjoy it. And I am such a believer in strength training, whether it's actually heavy weights or just body weight. I feel like setting that solid foundation and having some sort of strength is so important. But it doesn't have to be heavy weights and reps and sets in the gym.
Mm.
It can be whatever you enjoy. And, that can really start to, especially the self-love part of things, if you start to surround yourself, whether it is in a group environment, at CrossFit, at a functional gym, Pilates, whatever it is, you start to surround yourself with those people that are also doing the things because it makes them feel good. So again, self-love is a journey. It's a lot of unpacking. It's a lot of beliefs, and everyone's going to have those different beliefs. When I work through this with my clients, it's what are your beliefs around why you should look a certain way? Why do you want to look that way? And yeah, just slowly starting to unpack that. And it could stem back from, something that their mum did, or something that girls that they saw in a magazine, or, social media. Again, there's just so many different things. So yeah.
It's crazy. I have a memory just popped into my mind just then. My partner Georgia, she's been on a big health journey herself, and she picked up a lot of stories. And just on the point you made, it's things that you might not actually realize have actually embedded quite deep in you. Like she's mentioned something to me, like her grandmother would be like, don't eat too much, you'll put on weight or something like that, or you're looking a little bit bigger or something, you've got your winter coat on. And it's like very harmless, very loving comments can really fuck with people. They go deep. So that inner work, just looking underneath the hood for so many people and just questioning. I love something I've really picked up from you. I know you had it, I just haven't heard it from the horse's mouth, is just that ability and that thought pattern of looking to why. Like, why do I eat? Why do I binge? What goes through my head when that happens? Where is this coming from? When was the first time I did it? And I guess just shining that light upon yourself, putting that light in the dark parts of you that most people don't want to do it. That's why most people don't like doing that healing work. I've got a couple more
Mm.
questions that I think we'll have enough time for. I'd like to know what's I like transparency and honesty on my podcast. What's a problem that or a challenge that you're still working through? Because I find some people, like I think we spoke about before the podcast, is people pedestal people quite easily. They might look at you, Sim, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, she's so fit. She's a mother. She's got abs. She does CrossFit. She's got her life together. She's so good. I could never be like Sim." I've actually spoken to Dion about this conversation quite a lot. So I'd love to know for you to share with I guess the audience. I guess what are you still working on? What are you still overcoming? What are the challenges that you're working on personally, professionally, that hopefully the audience can relate to and still get value from as well at the same time?
Mm. I actually love this question because this is something that I've actually brought up recently with some of my clients and followers, just because, yeah, of that full transparency of, like you said, we all have the same or similar thoughts, whether it be around training or food or looking a certain way. And I feel like no matter how much we do the work, we still have these thoughts pop up in our head sometimes. It's just that we now have the tools to move through it. We know now how to, yeah. So it's like, for me personally, going back to my 2 bodybuilding comps that I did, and still following some people that do bodybuilding comps that I absolutely love their commitment, their dedication. And I love that, they still do that, even though it's not for me anymore. But that thought still swoops in at times that, me training a certain style, being CrossFit, for example, that maybe I'm not going to have the peachiest peach, maybe I'm not going to have the best looking physique. But I go back to, why do I train CrossFit, and why would I want to go back and do reps and sets in the gym to look like these girls that step on stage? Was I happy then? Is a bigger, perkier bum going to make me feel good? So it's crazy, like the thoughts, they can still sometimes slip in. And there was one point, again, full transparency, probably only a couple of years ago, where I considered stopping CrossFit, which I absolutely fucking love. Like, I'm so CrossFit obsessed because I just love the challenge. I love how empowering it is. I love that I can go in and I can start to achieve something that, at first I couldn't do. And then that plays out in other areas of my life. I go, cool, well, I couldn't do that thing before, and now I can. And it's the same with business. It's the same with life, all of that sort of thing. But there was a time not that long ago where I was in my head about, do I go back to normal gym workouts, because I'm not training my glutes 3 days a week. And, these girls on Instagram or these girls on stage, they have like these beautiful physiques. So again, it's questioning my intention behind it, and questioning like what's actually going to make me happy. And are these girls, happier than me or prettier than me or have a better body than me just because of this? And so just bringing myself back to, yeah, why? And then just to quickly touch on the food point, I actually had a conversation with one of my clients the other day, and we're working through some really sort of deep buried food addiction. And it's funny because people have different addictions, whether it's social media, whether it's food, whether it's drugs and alcohol. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the food addiction, or feeling love through eating food. Like, you ask someone what comes to mind when they think of the word food, and it's crazy to see what comes up. But with the food point, I still eat more than I should. And I'm going to say, should, with that sort of, yeah, because we all go through it. And there's times where, I'll be sticking to a certain, not necessarily diet because I have a lot of flexibility, but that little, thought will creep in of, maybe I should just devour the whole block of chocolate. But I know how to recognize that thought and how to move through it without using, especially the food for emotions in a stressful time when the kids are driving me crazy and I just want to go and relax and eat a block of chocolate when they go to bed. So
You
yeah,
you
that would
mentioned
be.
you mentioned fear and guilt, and it probably ties into that point you're just making. How do you empower people to give themselves the permission to have you can use the word binge if you want to use the word binge, but just the permission to have a block of chocolate, have an ice cream, because I know it's something I'm really proud of my partner. She's working through, because she's come from a place where it wouldn't just be one block, it'd be 5 blocks, and it would get quite a bit over the top. But now she's at a point where we go out and she wants an ice cream, she'll have an ice cream. She wants a donut, she'll get a donut, and she's found a really healthy way to do that. But I'd love to know how you help people, or what would you just suggest to people listening to this that they feel guilty as fuck when they do it. And not to dive into this too much, like chemically speaking, generally it's the guilt that does more damage to you than the food that you eat. And the psychological
100%.
flow on from that is what actually fucks your life up more than just enjoying the food.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to know, how do you frame it, or what do you do
Mm.
with clients to give them the empowerment, the permission, I don't know what words you're going to use to, I know, allow them to just enjoy foods when they decide to and they want to.
Yeah, great questions. And one thing that you said in there is something that I say to my clients all the time. I say to them, the stress that you are causing yourself, or the way that you're talking or feeling about whether or not to eat the food, or because you've already eaten the food, that's going to end up doing more damage to you than just fucking eating the food, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like that, embedding that into their brain is the biggest thing. It's like when you go out and you're so overwhelmed of what to pick from the menu, just make a decision, even if it isn't the most nutritious meal on the menu. Just enjoy it, because you're only one nutritious meal away from getting right back on track. And that's sort of one thing I like to say to my clients as well. And I think a lot of people do have that all or nothing mentality, where if they do go and eat the ice cream or eat something that they've considered bad, they go into fuck it mode, and then
Yeah.
it spirals out of control, because they think that that one food has then completely ruined their progress. So the education it definitely comes back to as well is for them to realize that, like, I don't really love to label foods as good or bad. Like, yes, there are some foods that, again, if you eat too much of them, they are going to potentially, do some damage to your body, or, fuck with your hormones or your metabolism or whatever it may be. But if you're creating this balance, which comes from a place of prioritizing nutrients, having your soul foods is what I like to call them, but also having that mindset and then that mentality, because that's the part that's going to, eat you up the most, eat you up the most. That's the part that's going to really affect you the most, like you said. So it's a work in progress of, really, again, goes back to the reprogramming of, that an ice cream isn't bad. And then just reminding them that they're anxious, like them being anxious or feeling guilty or stressing over what they're going to eat or what they have eaten is going to do more damage. And I think they really start to realize after, eating in a way of prioritizing nutrients, that they do go and enjoy something, and it doesn't ruin their progress if they have that right mentality to just get right back on track with doing the things that align with their goals.
This has been full of gold, Sim. Fucking full of gold. And I didn't expect anything less, by the way. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't, right? So I something
I love that.
something that I've thought a couple of times as you speak. It's like you say, it's not good or bad, and I'm the same. I don't like to use those labels. It's like, is it moving? It's either moving you towards or away from what you want. If you want to have fucking 2% body fat get on stage, then the donut isn't going to help you, right? Is not optimal for where you want to go. But if you want to fucking have a good time with your kids and enjoy life a little bit more, then fuck oath, get into it. So it's I do like you. I like the way you frame things. I like the choice of words that you have along it. Matt, possibly our last question, depending how long this answer takes. What's
Oh,
the
okay.
vision that you have for yourself, for your life, for the impact that you're going to make? Can you share with us your vision, whether it's with your business, the life, the I know you're a parent. I know that's important to you. So when I say what's your vision, I'd like to hear what comes to mind for you.
Yeah, amazing. So, um, my vision, it has a lot of things in it, but the biggest thing for me is, especially now being a parent, is to just really help educate women, particularly mums, whether you're a mum now or you want to be, around everything that we missed out on when we were growing up, to then have these beliefs and programs, and so that they can then pass that on to their kids. Because some things, as we know, are generational. Like you said, coming from a grandmother, then pass on to a mother, and we do certain things, particularly with food or exercise or even mindset, because of the generational stuff. So it's like, we can be the person to break the pattern. We can be the person to start, reprogramming and just getting rid of all this bullshit, because it's like, it can really go so deep with, like, what it can do to affect people if it is just emotional eating, and I shouldn't say just, because it's a real thing. And I don't want to fuck up my kids now, especially now that I have a little girl as well, like the girl in particular. But it's, what can I do to help educate and empower women and mums for themselves, but also for their kids. And then it also comes back to the health, fitness, and mindset part of it, not just around the food beliefs, but also for mums to really know that, you know, I know that it can be really hard for us to prioritize ourselves because we now have these, you know, little humans relying on us, and, you know, we never find time for ourselves. But I have realized how important it is to look after me so that I can be my best for them. Because if I don't look after my mental health, if I don't do the things for me, how am I going to show up? What's my energy going to be like? What are they seeing or what are they hearing that they are, you know, just consuming that's going to then play out in their life? So I'm like, I am selfish sometimes, and it just, you know, sometimes I do, you know, and in a way of course, I'm going to always put, you know, my kids first, but I'm also going to prioritize myself throughout the day. But I would just, yeah, just like getting in front of people has definitely been one of my goals as well, like doing some sort of face-to-face event. And it's all around health, fitness, mindset, but just women empowerment and like mum empowerment, I guess, because I do have a lot of mum clients, not all, and it's just so amazing to see how transformational it can be when they start to just change one small thing in their life. It can really truly just make such an impact, and then everyone's happier, their kids are happier, their partner's happier. So it all starts with you, and yeah, so that's sort of the message I want to try and get across.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
If before we give a plug to where to find you, what's the message that you want to be remembered for? When people hear of you, what do you want people to remember?
Probably comes back to what I was just saying. Mums in particular, but women in general, anyone, any human in general, is I have realized how important not only mindset work is, but inner work is. And that combined with health and fitness, like it can literally change so many things in your life. And just recently, just to quickly touch on that, like I've had a couple of clients that have come from severe anxiety, severe depression, you know, antidepressants, all of the things. And as soon as they started on their health and fitness journey and just found a balance that worked for them and worked on all things nutrition, training, mindset, and just that whole combination, but you know, just at their own pace and along their own journey, it's absolutely life changing. And, you know, it's kind of a big thing, but I have so many of my clients that say, you've literally changed my life. So I think I just want that impact of changing your life and knowing that, you know, you don't have to go and do all the extreme diets or training and that sort of thing. It's just about finding that balance, having that flexibility, and prioritizing you and doing the work on you. It all comes from within.
Any book recommendations? I'm going to start asking this at the end of my podcast. What's any book ones that have really shifted the needle for you? Maybe top 3?
Yes. So How to Do the Work.
Oh,
I feel like that's such an easy, amazing read. Love that book.
my partner's just started doing it. She started reading it last night.
Yeah, incredible. The other one, the next one that comes to mind is, I think it's called Secret of the Ages. Dion got me onto that. Yeah. So I've been listening to that, but then reading a separate book. So if I'm, you know, out walking or in the car, I can have a listen as well. Don't want to read while I'm driving. No. And then did you say 3?
Yeah.
3, yeah. What would the other one be? I always forget the name of it. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, because that's one I actually read really recently that just comes to mind. Again, another really easy but transformational read.
Mr. Joe Dispenza makes an appearance.
Yeah.
I will, Sim. This has been fantastic. I know it's been a while in the coming. I have been slack with my podcast booking, so thank you for being patient with me. I'd love to know for people listening that want to connect with you, whether it's your services or just consume your content or just send you a message, where would be the best place to connect with you?
I'm definitely most active on Instagram. So it's sim_Sullivan. But yeah, definitely the best place. You'll find me there.
You're amazing, Sim. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your value. Thank you for your energy. And for the guys listening or watching, thank you for getting to the end. A gift is, please send this to a friend, touch a life, add the value that you've gotten from this to someone else. And guys, I'll see you on the very next episode. Sim, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.